So my talk today is called Not Zero, Saving Our Community Assets. Of course, net zero is to leave us with nothing. You will own nothing, and you will be happy. And totalitarian regimes always rely on an officer class to suppress truth and to suppress freedom. And that is more of a priority than catching muggers and other miscreants in Croydon town centre. That's why we have such a over-the-top force here today to watch over us. And I apologise that we don't have amplification, so I'll try and speak up as much as I can, but that's because we'll get turfed out if we do anything amplified. So yeah, the totalitarian regime is imposing this net zero scam. Nothing to do with carbon dioxide, nothing to do with rising temperatures, nothing to do with a climate crisis. It's all about control. And you can read all about it. I've just got a few copies left of my book today, Green in Tooth and Claw, The Misanthropic Mission of Climate Alarm. Now, remember the 1980s, and I think many of you here today probably do remember the 1980s. And isn't it ironic that 1984 was what some of us often describe as the peak of pop music, the peak of freedom. The future was so bright you've got to wear shades. It was all looking up, wasn't it? We thought things were going to get better and better. Okay, there were problems back then. You had the miners' strike, you had trouble in Northern Ireland. We've always got problems. But we thought generally we're on an upward climb. How the country has changed since then. What we see with the country now is the realization not of the 1984 that many of us can remember, dancing to Wham and Frankie Goes to Hollywood. No, the 1984 of George Orwell is what's being created today. Who can doubt that with the creeping digital surveillance and totalitarianism everywhere we look? But the country has changed physically. We can look around us. We can see the demographic replacement. And I'm not saying that with any criticism of individuals from wherever they are in the world, but this is clearly a deliberate strategy to destroy a traditional society in this country. The landscape is changing. Town centres with ever-rising towers. Every time I go through the train, East Croydon on the train, there's another tower rising. So why do we need all these flats? The birth rate is plummeting. We're now down to 1.5 babies per woman, right? That is well below replacement level. But of course, what's happening is they're bringing in people from what we used to know as the third world. Why are they doing that? Because these are the people they want. They don't want us. They are creating a slave class. People from regions of the world with no culture of individual rights and liberty. People who are accustomed to authoritarian leaders and corruption. People low in trust beyond their own kith and kin. People who are different to the host society in language, norms, and beliefs. People who will gladly accept a small urban apartment. People who will do what they're told. The New World Order is being built on people from that sense of the powers that be tell us what to do and we do it. That is why China is a laboratory for the New World Order. That is why China has been used to bring in the social credit system. China with its communist system. But in the West, we have a growing number of people who are of collectivist bent because they come from parts of the world where they have often Islamic governments that really don't run for theocratic reasons, although it's sometimes called that. They run for the same reason that communist systems run, and the same reason that any authoritarian system runs. It's for control. But it is worth noting that Islam itself means submission. So the urban environment is being steadily built up. But as they keep building it, the more it's being dehumanized. The more people they crowd into our cities, the fewer the social amenities. Have you noticed that? Because they build on bowling greens. They build where pubs used to be. They build where churches used to be. Right? They are creating a smart city. And soon, it seems far-fetched at the moment to say it, but soon vast areas of this country will have, there'll be rural clearances. UK Column News earlier this week featured the plan to dramatically increase the population of Plymouth to over 500,000. Well, where are those people going to come from? Well, an obvious answer could be they're going to bring in more immigrants. But I don't think that is the only way that they're going to increase the population of Plymouth. I think they're going to increase the population of Plymouth by making it impossible for people to live in the towns and villages in Devon. It's going to be the West Country clearances. And I would suggest you look back in history at the Highland clearances of the late 18th, early 19th century. You think they can't do that again? They could do it much more now than they could back then. So, the high street is in terminal decline, except in very posh, very rich areas. Banks closed, leaving yawning gaps, independent shops and branded chains all disappearing. Churches closed, pubs converted to housing or Indian restaurants. Our social capital is being destroyed. Right, now that's enough of part one, which is the problem. Part two of my talk is about what we're going to do about it, because that's why we're all here today, isn't it? We're not just giving up. We are the resistance. We collectively, I think we need to acknowledge, we have been poor custodians of our institutions and cultural assets. I mean, looking back to the 1980s, I thought those pubs were there forever. I didn't see that over half of them were going to close, but that's what's happened. We have allowed our institutions to be overrun by cultural Marxists with their divisive, woke ideology. We have succumbed to safetyism. And when I say we, I don't mean us here, but I mean society in general, has succumbed to safetyism, to digital surveillance, to the net zero scam. But belatedly, people are waking up. Church pews, after decades of decline, are filling again. And that's not just at Easter. Every church now is showing an increase in, and it's not just the established churches, but of course the non-conformist, evangelical churches. There's a spiritual reawakening in reaction to the looming technocracy. We need to reconnect with our local marketplace. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We need to use our local independent stores. Individual retailers who accept cash. We need to support them. They will be your savior when the internet crashes, because believe me, it will happen. Not by accident. There is going to be a cyber crash at some point or other. They did a practice one in Spain and Portugal recently. And what happened? All those young people thought it's trendy to pay by card. They stopped using cash completely. What happened? They couldn't pay for anything. So there were enormous queues at the ATMs. And the ATMs have only got so much money in them. And there were fights at ATMs. Some people withdrawing 500 euros and getting attacked for doing so, emptying the machine. Small retailers, we should be building stronger alliances with them so that we know that we can keep using cash for the foreseeable future. The pub, though, is the heart of our community. And isn't it so sad to see a boarded up pub? And when I see a boarded up pub, I think, who is responsible for that? And I think we have to admit something here, that we are responsible. We are responsible if pubs close down. Now, obviously, there's speculation and there's sale of pubs because more money can be got from selling off for housing. But it's not enough to just know that a pub is there and just go in it maybe once every blue moon. We have to support the pub because the pub is not just a business. The pub is our speakeasy. The pub is where we can talk freely about what's going on in the world. And this is why they bring in this thing called the banter ban, right? They want to give you the impression that even in the pub, you have to be careful what you say. Right, so we took pubs for granted and we neglected them. And government policy for decades has been doing its best to make sure more and more of these places close. Of course, the taxation regime is one big factor here. But there's also, I was just reading in a news feed, I think just this morning, how Keir Starmer is starting a war on alcohol. Now, of all the problems going on in society, do you think the pub is the biggest priority, where the big problems in life happen? Of course not. For a while, for now, the government is enjoying the increased tax receipts. They're going to put the price up and up and up. Okay? So we're going to be paying more and more for foreign wars and all the other things we don't want our government to be funding. But it's still important that we keep our pub going. When the pub goes, our community goes. It's really that serious. The closure of so many of our pubs is an insult to our heritage. It's a great loss to our quality of life. But as with churches, we can start a revival. And we're starting to see that. My friend here, Rob with the shades on, he and I are doing a local history project in Bexhill-on-Sea, where we have researched some of the older pubs that have disappeared, long gone, and also the newer ones. And what we're starting to see now is belatedly people are realizing the maxim, use it or lose it. People are starting to come back to the pubs and bars, even though it's, well, in Bexhill it's £4.50 a pint, but that's still a lot. That's a lot for Bexhill, right? Probably near £6.50 here. Okay, right. Another thing about the pub, and I'll just talk about one of my penchants here, is that the pub is the only place where you can drink real ale, and real ale is a distinct part of British cultural heritage. Any time spent at the pub is time spent away from digital devices. And yes, I know that some people go for meals and drinks still looking at their phones, but it's time that can be well spent. So I want to end there by just saying that if anyone's interested, this is a book not just about Bexhill, but it's about British social history and what we can do collectively to try and preserve it. Special price, £6 today on that one. History of Bexhill pubs. And I'm just going to say, as the officers are still there, I'm sure they're going to be watching over us all afternoon, they want their great reset. But we are the great resist.